I will grow. I will grow. I will grow into a deeper understanding of who and what I am. That's all I'm ever trying to encourage here, is for each of us to go deeper and go deeper and go deeper into that brilliant, brilliant place called the divine, and live every moment of our lives based on this idea that we are that which is, that we are God. Each and every one of us, we are God. And so that's what I talked about last week when I talked about the first 10 pages of the introduction to this big book, The Science of Mind, which is the basis for on which we base the entire teaching. You read this book backwards and forwards when you're in ministerial school. You actually do read it backwards and forwards. Well, you read it forwards when you're in Science of Mind 100. But it's a brilliant book. It's a brilliant book. And all you need to know are in the first 25 pages. And that's the joke, right? That all you need to know are in the first 25 pages. So I talked about the first 10 pages last week. This week I'm actually talking about the next 5. The next 5 are a portion of the introduction called The Way It Works. The Way It Works. So last week we talked about the thing itself. There is only God is basically what we talked about last week. That's it. That is it. Now, I talked a lot about the intangible quality of God because, how do we prove that God exists? How do you prove that God exists? Well, that's what I say, right? That's what Dr. Holmes says. It's what a lot of very deep spiritual thinkers say. Simply be aware. We understand that God exists because we are self-aware. So the self-awareness is this deeper understanding that I am, that I am. That's the truth. So that's the thing itself. God is all there is. So the way it works, and now in this next 5 pages, a lot of gems. So I started off this morning sitting at Starbucks, as I always do on Sunday mornings, and I'm typing it. I'm like, oh, that's a great quote, and that's another great quote, and that's another great quote. Well, why don't I just read this chapter to everyone? I did feel compelled to do that. I will not be doing that. Here's the problem with these next 5 pages. He spends 5 pages basically saying one thing. He titles it The Way It Works, and all he's saying is, it works. It works. That's what he's saying. That's all it just works, right? Everything is unfolding brilliantly because God is a creative force. God is the creative factor behind all things that exist. Now, we're simply having an experience of the divine. We are simply having an experience of the divine. Now, experience may be, and I'm sure it is, because God is infinite. So we're simply experiencing a small portion, an infinitesimal portion of what God is by means of our experience right here on this plane of existence. And we teach 2 things in this philosophy. The first thing we teach, we talked about last week. God is all there is, and we are that. The second thing we teach is that the entire universe operates based on the law of cause and effect. Cause and effect. That's it. Those are the 2 things we teach. Every week I get up here, I tell you the same thing. You are God, and your life is operating perfectly. Doesn't feel that way all the time, though, does it? Because there are some things that we're experiencing that we would rather not experience, right? Yeah. There are some things that I've experienced that I would rather not experience, and I choose not to experience them anymore. I choose that, and I get to choose that. You know why? Because I am a causative force in this universe, and when I make a decision, it happens. That's what I understand. That's the truth. It simply works. So Ernest Holmes in this, he writes, the life we live is the universal life expressing through us. That's the thing itself. We are living embodiments of the divine. Our thought and emotion is the use we make, listen to this, consciously or unconsciously, of this original creative thing that is the cause of everything. Does that sound like Greek to you? A little bit? Well, I'm going to break it down. Our thought and emotion, what we're thinking, what we're feeling, is the use we make. That is how we create. It is the use we make. Either we're doing it consciously, we are aware of what we're doing, or we're doing it unconsciously. We're not aware of what we're creating in our life. It is the use we make of this original thing, God, that is the cause of everything. So what you are thinking, what you are feeling, is the causative force behind what's happening in your life. So like I said earlier, because this is what a lot of people don't want to hear, if you don't like what's going on in your life, you're responsible for it. And there's great power in that because you get to change it. That's another thing I say every week. You're responsible for it, so you get to change it. That's the truth. So there is nothing but God. That's where we begin. That's where we begin. That's what I covered last week. So, we are using it consciously at times, but what I want to get to today is the unconscious use of it. Because a lot of what's happening in your life, we detach from thinking that we didn't create it. But that's the unconscious use of a principle of cause and effect that is always operating. We are using it at all times. At all times. So the question becomes, how will you use it? How will you use it? And that's what I like to celebrate when we're here. We celebrate on Sunday that we get to use it purposefully and pointedly and specifically. We get to create our lives. So, are you going to continue to use it unconsciously? That is a question. Are you going to continue to use it unconsciously? Or are you going to be the person, the one person that Dr. Holmes asks for in the conclusion to the Science of Mind that is going to prove this principle? He says in the conclusion, you can study all the philosophies of all the world and it means nothing until you prove the principle. So are you going to be the person who does that? Yes. Awesome. I'll be right there with you. The truth is, you are using it. You are using it. You're using it right here. You're using it right now. Your very presence in this space is a use of the law of cause and effect. It is a use of the causative factor of mind, of God. You have come here, I like to say, on purpose, whether you're aware of it or not. Even if somebody dragged you here against your will, you are here on purpose because you created the very factors that aligned to put you in this place at this time. So, you are using it. You made a decision to be here. That decision was backed by action. And there's nothing special about the action. There's nothing special about it. But when you make a decision, action happens. And you end up here, based on that decision. And I wrote, this may seem pedantic, but that's the way it works. There's nothing special. It just does. It simply does. So many of us in our lives come to a spiritual philosophy because we have big questions. A lot of us come here because we're thinking, oh, my life, it really sucks. And I need to find something that's going to fix it, right? That's what a lot of people do. They're looking for something to fix their life. The issue that I have with that is we are imagining that our lives are this big thing that needs to be fixed, and we're looking at the big picture. We're looking at all the things that have compounded and feel insurmountable in our lives. And forgetting that, like a painting, our lives have brushstrokes, and that every little brushstroke makes up the bigger picture. Every decision you make in your life is an individual brushstroke. And with each brushstroke, you're creating a bigger picture. Now, I have in my life had a tendency to get lost in the bigger picture. When I started ministerial school, boy, I was like, I got in there day one, I'm like, I'm in ministerial school now. I am ready to go out and be a minister. Well, I still had 2 more years of study, right? But boy, I was ready at that point. I wanted to be out there. I wanted to be giving talks. I wanted to just go for it. So that's great, and it's enthusiastic. And, you know, I think I do still show enthusiasm from up here. I'm spilling water, sorry. But I had to go through those years of study to develop the individual brush strokes. And I gladly came to a point where I accepted that that's what needed to be done. So we can get lost in the bigger picture. Now, I've gotten lost in the bigger picture for about 5 years. Because now I'm going to admit to you that I've been lost in the bigger picture of something that I've been putting off for 5 years. It came up in boot camp this week, and I thought, oh, now I'm being held accountable to this idea that I have, and now I have to take action on it. Because I'm telling everybody in boot camp, you must take action in your life. If you have an intention, you must take action on that intention. Otherwise, it was not an intention, it was simply a nice thought. So I have this play that I've been considering writing. It's an adaptation, and I've been considering writing it for 5 years. Now, the reason that it hasn't happened is because I've been stepping back, getting lost in the big picture. And I'm forgetting that all that's required right now is a single step, is to take one brush stroke. And there is no need for me to continue seeing it in an overwhelming way. So then I ask, where do I begin? What is that one brush stroke that I need to take? So it's an adaptation of a play. I'm not going to tell you what play it is because I kind of want to also keep it under wraps because I don't want anybody to steal my idea, right? Because I think it's brilliant. So it's an adaptation of a play that is in the public domain, and I want to turn it into a musical, a contemporary musical, so that'll give you a little hint. It's, you know, an older piece. So there are a couple things that need to go on with that, right? I need to find a composer because I don't write music. Now, I happen to know some people who write music. Your husband. I'm looking at you because I happen to know some people who write music. I need to sit down and write 1 page of dialogue. That would be a brush stroke, right? I need to read the source material. It's an adaptation, so I need to be really familiar with the source material. I need to look at character development and start 1 character at a time, looking at how those characters develop and how do I write them into this piece to support the bigger picture. So where do I start? Because those are a lot of things that I could start with. You know, do I start with the composer? Do I start with character development? Obviously, I probably should read the source material before I try and adapt it. I have read it. I've also seen this play produced many, many times. You know a great way to start it? Take all of these ideas, put them on a piece of paper, throw them in a hat, and choose one. And just do it. Just do it. So what I committed to my mental muscle group this week is that I was going to spend 1 hour every day working on this project. And I have done that. So that is taking control and allowing the creative source to move through you without getting in the way. Because when we step and see the bigger picture, we're getting in the way by feeling the overwhelm of that, right? What seems to be a lot of work becomes manageable. And this is true for every single thing that's going on in your life. If you're feeling overwhelmed, you know the greatest way to get past the feeling of overwhelm? Take action in one way. Because mostly we're looking at the bigger picture, thinking, I've got to do all of these things. Just do one of them. Just do one of them. And the thing is, I stand up here and I think, you know, we all know this. We've been told this a million times, right? But it is so easy to get off track. It is so easy to forget and believe that something is unattainable. Unattainable or even beyond our capabilities. How many times have you told yourself that something is beyond your capability? Is there anything that's beyond your capability? This is a real question. Is there anything that is beyond your capability? Yes? Yes? Okay. I heard an uh-oh. Now, on some level I will agree with you. Because I believe, I believe there are things that are beyond my capability. I am never going to be a diver in the sense that I could not go to the Olympics and be a competitive diver, right? That's a belief that I have. But it's a belief. Now, why do I have that belief? Maybe because I'm looking at the big picture and I'm thinking, oh, well, I can't do that. But if I take the one brush stroke and then take the next brush stroke and then the next, why would that not be attainable? Why would that not be attainable? I think it is attainable on some level. I probably won't go to the Olympics, but I don't really have a desire to go to the Olympics either as a diver. Maybe as a swimmer. Now, I was a really good competitive swimmer when I was a teenager. And then I turned to acting. It all went downhill from there. But it's all about the perception. How do we see ourselves? We see ourselves as something that is limited. We see ourselves as something that does not have the capability to do whatever we want to do, to live the dreams we want to live. We see ourselves as little. That's how we perceive ourselves. And I think we do that. It's a mechanism for not feeling the overwhelm. That's why we see ourselves as little. But it is an erroneous belief. We are not little by any stretch of the imagination. We are that which is. We are God, individualized expressions of the divine. That is who and what we are. Ernest Holmes writes, when we see it as it is, then we shall see ourselves as we are. What he means there is that by the very act and nature of seeing ourselves as limited, we are now seeing God as limited. And when we step back and we understand and we see that God is unlimited and understand that that is who and what we are, then we see ourselves as unlimited. So where are you going to fall on that spectrum? Because it is a spectrum. Some of us really understand and see God as unlimited and understand that that is who and what we are. Then there are other people who step over here and they're like, oh, well, I can't possibly be all of that, right? And I think a lot of traditional religion teaches that you are insignificant. And that's simply not the truth. You are significant. You are infinitely significant. That is the truth. We are the greatness. We simply are the greatness of this thing called God. Now, we are not the allness of God, because that's one thing that I also want to make sure is very clear. When I stand up here and say, you are God, which I do say every week, you are God. I am not standing up here and saying, you are the allness of God, because it's not possible for an individualized expression of God to be the allness of God, because if that were the case, that means that if you are the allness of God, what does that make me? It makes me separate from the allness of God. So the allness of God is the body of the universe. So we're simply expressing as God. Now, the creative factor behind that, the creative idea of the allness of God is constantly flowing through us. So we have at our disposal the allness of God, but we're expressing individually. And as we express, we get to decide what that means. So no, I don't want to be an Olympic diver. I don't even really want to be an Olympic swimmer. I've chosen my path, and I'm living that path now. I've chosen to be the spiritual director of a center. I have chosen to write a play. I have chosen to continue at some point acting. I will at some point, as soon as I have an assistant minister who can help me with this place. As soon as I have an assistant minister who can help me with this place. But these are things that I've chosen, and they are unfolding perfectly at all times. I trust that, even in the hard times. And I won't say that there have not been some hard times even since I've been here. There have been some hard times, some difficult decisions that I've had to make, and I have made them with the understanding that if I tap into that which is, if I tap into the intuition of the divine, that the decision is made perfectly and in support of the higher idea and in support of every person that it entails. That's the truth. Now, Ernest Holmes also writes, if we say we can only experience a little good, then we shall experience only a little good. Therefore, and this is one of the most important quotes in the entire textbook, our belief sets the limit to our demonstration of a principle which of itself is without limit. Our belief sets the limit to our demonstration of a principle which of itself is without limit. That belief is what puts the walls up. That belief is what closes us off and makes us feel separate. That belief is simply keeping us separate from the other, when in truth there is no other, because we are all God. And the degree to which you demonstrate in your life, the degree to which you effect in your life is limited only by your belief. But it is an unlimited power. It is an unlimited power. So I go back to explain this, I go back to, I have a belief that I will not be an Olympic diver. And there is my limitation. There is my limitation. The truth is we are unlimited. We are working expressions of God. And we're always at work. Work, 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 because we are always demonstrating. We are always expressing. We are always creating. We are always creative in our nature. So you may be sitting here asking, great, but I still don't know how it works. Can you answer that for me? Because it's great to stand up here and say, your beliefs create your experience, right? Your beliefs create your experience. Well, how do I change my belief? Because I'm not enjoying my experience right now. Well, the way you change your belief is by changing your belief. First, you have to recognize that the belief exists. You have to realize what the limitation is. And once you recognize what the limitation is, then you make a conscious choice. You make a conscious choice to move past that idea, to decide that that no longer has power. That belief no longer has power. So then what do you have to do? You have to replace it with the new belief. And what is the new belief? Your new belief is in your understanding that you are greatness, that you are unlimited, that there is nothing that can hold you back. And when you step into that, then you speak, and your word has power. Because your word is what you've got. That is what you are creating from. And your word comes from your consciousness. It comes from your use of mind. And when consciousness speaks, the law receives and executes. Simply does. That's how it works. So why does it seem complicated? Because we get in the way. It's only complicated because we get in the way. We have erroneous beliefs, and those demonstrate just as easily as our intentional beliefs. The law is working regardless of our awareness or intentional use of it. It is always working. And then another really important quote: ignorance of the law excuses no one from its effects. Ignorance of the law of cause and effect, excuses no one from its effects. Now, many ministers stop there. But I read a little bit more into that paragraph, and he continues, if then certain specific ways of thought and belief have produced limitations, other beliefs will change them. We must learn to believe. If your belief, if your thought, if your ignorance of the law has created beliefs that keep you limited, a different belief will open that up. It's simply shifting your belief. So today I ask you to stop, take a look at where you are, stop, and see how you're limiting your beliefs in your life. In what ways do you find yourself as being limited? One of those ways may be, and they can be small things, when you say to yourself, oh, that's not possible. You've now set your limitation. Every time you say, oh, I can't, you have now set your limitation. The law says you're right, you can't. Every time you say, life sucks, and I'm sure we all say that occasionally, every single one of us. I've said it. When you say life sucks, what does the law say? Yep, life sucks. Life sucks, and the law is going to continue to deliver every single thing that is going to support that idea. So turn it around, and the only place to turn it around is in your mind. Start believing that life doesn't suck. Start believing that life is great. Start believing, like we read at the beginning of the service today. Start believing this. I am happy and complete today and forever. Within me is that which is perfect and complete. It is the spirit of all life, truth, and action. I am happy in the certain knowledge of this inner light. I radiate joy and life, for life is within me now. To what degree do you believe that statement? Because that is the degree to which you have now set your limit in belief. The law accepts everything. The law accepts everything and corresponds in equal measure to the belief. So, then I ask, why does it seem so hard to change? Why does it seem so hard to change? And this goes back to what I also talk about a lot. It's the H word. Habit. We get lulled into habits. We get lulled into habits. And habit is simply life expressing itself, but we're doing it unconsciously. That's what a habit is. It's unconscious expression. And we will repeat the unconscious expression until we consciously change it. We have come into a habitual belief that life can be hard, and it is hard to change. And yet, I am here to tell you, you have the perfect solution at your disposal. That solution is mind. That solution is your thought. That solution is your belief. There is absolutely no need to assert willpower. And you know what? Willpower can even get in the way. Willpower can get in the way. Because with willpower, usually there's an energy behind that says, oh, I've got to change this. But the energy is, I don't think I can change this. So how are you approaching life? How are you consciously changing your beliefs? Are you changing them? Are you consciously choosing to approach them with assuredness that you can change them? Without willpower, just simply knowing that you can create a new idea and it's easy. It requires no work. You simply come to a deeper idea, a deeper understanding, and come to a deeper understanding of acceptance in your life. Ernest Holmes writes, "We do not will things to be done. Things are brought into being not by will, but by the power of the self-assertive truth." Your word, your belief, your mind is a self-assertive truth, and simply, note the word, simply demonstrates at all times. So I encourage you today to really take a look at what you have been creating, and if you don't like it, know that you can change it. And that's the truth. That is the truth. And you get to change it because you are God. You are the very thing itself. And so I step into a deeper understanding that this is easy, and I claim for each and every one of you that it is easy. And so I simply let it be easy. I relax into that. I let go and I let God. I let go and I let God. I let go and I let God. I love you. I give great thanks for you and I honor you. Namaste.